up, guys? Gonna show back in the video. Today's video is what if Lee survived. So what if Lee lived is basically what if he survived season 1, so he doesn't get bit in this timeline. Or he survives the bite, but now that's the case. Season 1, episode 2, we would travel together, and because Lee is here, Clementine would still have gone. Omid would still get killed, I think. I don't think Lee could save Omid. I think he would try, and when the time passes, Clementine just kind of doesn't do anything, but I think Lee would argue with Krista. They would hear the scavengers and they'd get separated. Lee, Clementine, and Krista. So Krista would still go missing in episode 1, with Omid being dead. They would come across the cabin crew now, and they are now on Lee's group. So they've joined our team. So Alvin, Carlos, Rebecca, and Nick, Pete, and Luke. At the end of episode 1, we will find and meet Lee. I think we will find Lee. And like in the actual episode, Pete would still get bitten, and he will die. In my version of the story, this is kind of what if and how I would play the game as well. Pete would die, so Pete's gone in episode 1. But it doesn't matter because he would die in episode 2 anyway if you wanted to, like, start. But going from this point is how I think the season would have been in my playthrough, and kind of also the what if universe itself. So episode 2 would basically be in the woods. We would be Clementine. Clementine could learn faster with Lee around. She might not develop as fast because that was the whole thing. When Lee originally died, Clementine developed a lot faster in The World of Walking Dead. Rebecca's still pregnant. Carlos is very protective of Sarah. I do think Lee would try to get him to persuade her to teach her to use the gun. And Nick is Nick, so it wouldn't make a difference. Now, in the original episode, Nick shoots Matthew. So now I kind of think Nick gets kicked from the group. Because Lee would do a situation similar to how he did with Lily. I think Luke could possibly leave, but I'm just going to say Luke stays with the group. I think Luke would understand. Everyone would definitely get it. And episode 2, and this episode will be similar. Nick is kicked. Obviously, we will still meet Kenny, Sierra, and Walter in the cabin. But now that Walter would find out about Matthew when we tell him. But now that Nick's not there to kind of comfort him, Walter might have actually gone rogue. So Carver's group, which we'll bring down here for now, put Bonnie up here because she wasn't here originally, and Arvo. Arvo will be important later on. So we're going to plop him up here for now. No, some technical difficulties. And Carver would still kill Walter because there's nothing we can do about that. He would still kill him in the similar way he does originally. So Walter would still be out. So Walter's out. And Luke would still run away, like he originally did. But now, we don't have that decision with Nick because we kicked him out of the group. So, we have Lee, Clementine, Carl, Sarah, Alvin, Rebecca, Kenny, and Kenny, and Sarita. So, I ultimately think that I think now instead of Alvin, Carvin points the gun at, he does it to Lee. And because Kenny and Lee are very good friends, Kenny's not going to shoot Lee, so Kenny's going to give himself up, and that's the end of episode 2. Luke still runs away at this point, which should be noted as well. And Nick is not dead, so that's also another thing to note. So now we have Carver's group. This is the prison, episode 3. So we gotta make this the prison. And we'll just make this Carver for now because yep, Carver is here, so we have Carver. I'm just gonna put Arvel here for now. And for now, I'm just gonna say I'm gonna put everyone in the prison because they're all locked up. Except Luke, which Luke is still out. So the episode would be very similar at this point. We would still try to have the escape plan. And Kenny argues with Rebecca about how he got them into this. I do think Lee would be on Kenny's side. I do think he would be on the side. Alvin would still get beat up like the original. Luke would get captured because Alvin would still go missing. And then it's kind of Reggie. Reggie would still get thrown off the roof because don't think Lee being here changes that. And I had to think about this, and this is, would Kenny still lose his eye for Clementine? My answer is yes. I think Kenny would still lose it. But there's a major difference when we're trying to escape. I know Clementine didn't want to leave Kenny originally, and I think Lee would be on board with this. And Kenny would then be up like a badass and just say, nah, you're not leaving me behind. Or like, the coolest guy ever, like, nah, you're not leaving me behind. So then when we break out of the prison, Alvin, we'll still find out he dies. Carver gets beaten up and killed, and Troy gets killed very similar to how he does. So the end of episode 3, we now have to point out that the group gets separated. So Carlos would still be killed. Carlos would still be killed regardless of who escapes. So he would still get killed in the escape. So when people get separated, it's still Sarah and Luke. For now, we'll just put them down here for not being missing. So then it's episode 4. Episode 4, Sarita would still die because I don't think us being here would change the events. And I think Lee escapes, Kenny escapes, Clementine, Rebecca, Bonnie, Jane, and Mike. So at this point, Becca and Luke are missing. So now, who gets shot in the neck? And I don't think anyone does. I don't think anybody in this group would get shot. So, in the shoulder. So I think when we're escaping with Clementine and Jane, Luke comes back. And Sarah comes back, I think, in my version. So, and then once that happens, once we're trying to protect, we're on the ridge trying to protect when Kenny's trying to do the birth process, Sarah would still die very similar to how she did. So So Rebecca would still die, and we need to bring Alvin into the fray because he's a member of our squad. Where is Alvin? Um, there's Alvin. So, episode 5. We have Arvo. Arvo's in our group. Okay. So, this is basically the gunfight, and I think the major difference I'm having is the casualties. Luke would still get shot in the leg. And when you actually watch the fight, nobody dies in the original. Like, nobody actually dies. So now we need to pick a casualty. And in the PlayStation PS3 glitch, there's a glitch where you can kill Mike. So I feel like that Mike is going to die in this fight. I just think it keeps it more interesting throughout the episode. And I think Kenny would still be on Arvo, similar how he did. Mike's not here to kind of defend him now, so I think Bonnie would kind of take that role. When we're going across the ice, I think Luke would still die. And this is our group now. This is our entire team. And basically, Bonnie would go. Bonnie would want to die as well. And I think Arvo, with his in being as badly wounded as he is, by himself, will go and try to steal the truck. And Clementine will try to stop him, and she gets shot. And Lee is furious at this. He goes to Arvo and beats him and beats him and beats him until he can't get up. So Arvo dies. I think Arvo dies on the spot if Lee was around. So I think when they wake up, Lee's in the back with Clementine, and Jane and Kenny are just arguing with each other. Lee tries to break them up, and they crash the car. And now that Jane's here, I'm sorry, Lee's here, he would have the baby, so Jane can't pull the stunt, which angers Kenny. So now it's kind of what happens, because I have no way of knowing what would happen from this point, because these two fight each other, and that's the alternate endings. So I decided, I thought it'd be pretty cool that if Lee was missing and Jane lied, and she locked Lee in the car, and they both get winning endings. So Lee would try to break up, and then we would see Lee after the defeat of Jane or Kenny. So I'll start with Kenny's. I'll do mine last. So in Jane's ending, when she gets Lee out of the car, I think this would have been a pretty sick ending, actually. Lee would hug Clementine, and he would be told what happened. And Lee says, "Come on, we're not taking Jane, we're leaving Jane. She's not coming with us." So it's a Lee or Kenny ending. There's not even a Jane ending. I don't think there is even a Jane ending. And Kenny's ending is quite similar. Obviously, now we get to Wellington, and it's either we're going to take two people and go in. It's either Lee and Clementine go into Wellington, or Lee and Clementine stay with Kenny. And if you go in Kenny, he's still alive, and it's left up to your imagination. So, but for me, I think we're going to have it where we stay with Kenny. So that's what I think would happen in the season if Lee survives season 2. Let me know if you want a part 2 to this, mate. I'll make a season 3, and I'll go through all the events how I think would go out. I thought taking out Mike would be a lot more interesting near the end. If you want, we could still have a confrontation with Mike and Arvo, but I just think it's more interesting if Arvo actually became more of an important character, and maybe more of his people came to try and save him, which in that instance could take out Bonnie as a last casualty. So thank you guys for watching. Comment, like, subscribe. Peace, farewell.